Okay, so now in this section, we're going to create the content that sits on our hero section. So let's go ahead and, by the way, I sort of forgot to create the topography section. So let's add another page called topography, and we'll drag this down. All right, and for topography, let's go over here and just kind of copy one of these sections. All right. All right, so what we'll do is delete that, and we're going to put in the primary font's name, which is AILERON. All right, so let's go ahead and make this big, even bigger than that. So let's go to, let's try 96. And then let's duplicate that. And maybe around size 26, we'll say primary font. And we'll leave that right there. All right, so this obviously we can specify the different weights and the font sizes that we end up using for common areas of the design that we're going to use. So the first one will be our headline. For now, we can go ahead and just lock this so we're not selecting it. And now let's go ahead and use our type tool, and we're going to put in an actual headline. So the headline, this is one of those things that you as a UI designer don't really have much control over. So we're just going to put in an ad agency for a modern world. All right. So this is looking pretty large, so I probably want to change it maybe down to 80, and we're going to center it, center align it, and dragging it in right around here. And that looks actually pretty solid right there. Remember, our wireframe, we have a primary headline and then a sub headline. So let's go back to our desktop design. And that right there is looking pretty solid. And I like it. Yeah, that's solid. So what we can do is we can add this to our type style. So we're going to put in type-headline. And so headline type, and we'll go ahead and choose our type style. And if you want, you can also designate the font size underneath it. But for now, we're just going to leave this as is. Let's just go ahead and duplicate this as well. Headline style. All right, that's good. So next up, we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and replicate this and then just detach the style. This is going to be our subheadline. So we're going to say, oops, by accident, I was trying to type when I wasn't in type mode. All right, so we're going to say reach the largest in blockchain audiences in the world. Get rid of in, that did not make sense. Okay, so now for this, let's try a size of 24 or so. And I think, yeah, let's try to change that to 28, but also not bold. Will be regular. All right, so that gives us a really solid distinction between these two elements, or in other words, visual hierarchy. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we can create a style for this, but I don't envision this particular subheadline being reused, so we don't really need to create an actual subheadline style. I mean, we could. I suppose if you want to be as robust as possible, might as well just do it. So let's just create type subheadline. All right, and we can go back to our typography. All right, this will be a subheadline style. We will change this. All right, there we go. All right, going back, if we look back at our wireframe, we have a features section. All right, feature 1, 2, or 3, and we don't necessarily have to create cards as they're envisioned here. They could be open-ended, and that would be completely just fine. So if we go back to our desktop design, remember, if we go back to our client brief, rather, we can see what are the core features of your service. We've partnered with the 5 largest exchanges. That'll be the first one, and then second and third. So now let's go back here, and let's get started. So let's put in some type. We've partnered with the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world. Now for this type, we're going to go even smaller. We're going to choose 20, but let's detach that. All right. So now let's also center this. Control-Shift-4. We're going to have 3 of these, but we don't want to have this little amount of white space between them. So what we'll do instead of that is we can always kind of offset things just a little bit so that things are kind of evened up as much as possible. So now what we can do is let's increase the lighting a bit. All right. And then we will also have icons on top. So if I Control-Shift-4, there's obviously many different ways and areas to get icons. What I ended up doing, I just went to the plugins, I chose Iconify, and I chose 3 different icons that related to this actual business in a sense. And I tried to choose ones that kind of worked well with each other. Ideally use ones from the same exact set so that they're designed consistently. So the first one, I'm just going to copy this here, and if you wish, you can download the project files for this lesson, and you could just grab these as well if you're going to follow along. So that's going to be the first one, and each of these cards will, so it has an icon, a description, and then also a call to action underneath it. So what we can do is we can go to our assets and drag a button here, and we will detach it. So let's come out here and trying to find, yeah, there we go, detach the instance. And we're going to choose create another color here, because I don't want to have 3 buttons that are using a primary color, because then we're overusing it too much for buttons. So we're going to take kind of like a reverse approach. So what we'll do is detach that. We're going to significantly take down the lightness of it, and then also almost desaturate this. And I was wrong. We're going to go up a little bit higher, but almost completely desaturate on the edge. Yeah, right around there, maybe even darker, so it just barely stands out. And I think I like that. And then what we'll also do is, let's see what this font size is. We're gonna change this to 18 as well, like in the top there. And that's looking pretty solid, but I do want to also have an icon inside of it. So what we'll do is right click and go to Iconify. Specify right, and Or what we could do instead, we can create our own just with the arrow tool. I'm going to put this on the outside just momentarily. Now, by default, they make it 3. We're going to go and make it 1 for the size. So now we can just kind of drag this in over there, and it's automatically set up. Now, if we take a look at this, yeah, make sure that is all centered. Let's adjust this. Yeah, everything's looking good in that regard. Okay, so start campaign is right there. And this is essentially going to be our first card. So what we could do is we could take this, I'm going to delete it. We're going to go back to our layers and go to our components. And let's put in another one. So we'll go ahead and create an actual component there. Let's just put secondary button. We will create variations. All right, so we can do a hover state. We can also do one with and without the actual icon, which seems like it would be worth it. But for now, we're just gonna leave it by default with an icon. So what we'll do is give it a hover state though. All right, so for our fill, oh, and by the way, we never, I forgot, which is one of those common things that happens. We never added that to our color section. So what we can do is, let's go to our colors. Actually, let's go back to our desktop. No, sorry. Let's go back to our components. That's one of the tricky things about this. You're kind of going all over the place. We want to take this, our fill color, and we're going to add it. But first, it is 16. We're going to change that to 15 here. All right, because I think we had one that was at 10, but not 15. So we'll go ahead over here and we'll choose plus. Let me make sure that I don't yet have one called 15, because I think maybe I do. No, I don't. Okay, just wanted to be certain before I made that change. So components. That was from our previous, the autofills from our previous project, I believe. So we can come over here and change that as well to primary color 15. All right, and then for our colors, change this 10 to a 5, or a 0 to 5 rather, and go ahead and change this. So let's go ahead right there. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Now, next up, where was I? So we're in components, yes. And we're going to create, so we're going to detach that. We're going to make a lighter version, slightly lighter, 25. There we go again. So now we're going to add this to our styles, to primary color, 25. And we'll go back to our colors. All right, and change this. These are all the colors we've used so far. All right, so if we go back to our components, we will double click here into prototype. This will be hover, and there we go. Back to desktop design, let's go to assets and drag that in. All right, start campaign. We're gonna actually change that to our partners. Great. We're going to select these 3 and we'll duplicate them. Now that should be the center of the document. Let's group it up temporarily and go back to design and center. There we go. That's the actual center. Now let's right click and ungroup. This one is going to say mint your ad campaign with our custom NFT ads solutions. All right. Now, one thing I might want to adjust about this is we want to have all three of these have 3 lines. So if I bring that in just a little bit, width is 257. We're going to change this width to 257 as well. Make sure this is all centered up. Okay. Let's change this button to minting. Oops, I did it again. I think that's a Britney Spears lyric. Let's double click. There we go. So minting process. Now we're also going to change the icon here. And again, these are just icons I grabbed from that plugin we've been using. All right, that's looking pretty good right there. And then finally, we'll take these, we'll duplicate it, and we're gonna get Control-Shift-4. And we're kind of looking to see, and making sure that we have an equal amount from here to there of white space, of course. All right, so now we'll delete this one. I have another one. This is based on a card that has to do with payments. So I'm using this element right here. All right, and then this type is pay in crypto. It just wouldn't make sense to only allow fiat payments. There we go. Fiat is like government money, by the way. So now we'll go ahead and change this to payment methods. Control-Shift-4. And there we go. So a lot of work, clearly, but yeah, we're to a point now where we have the hero section almost done. In the next lesson, we're going to create a actual interesting prototype where when you hover over any of this area for this card right here, it's going to adjust the background in that section. And that kind of, it's hard for me to describe, but I'll show you the effect. It's really cool.